Let's get into it. Coach Colin here. We got Don Jr. manhandling Don Trump Jr., just in case you're wondering. Manhandling an MSNBC reporter. I don't even know if you can call him that. He did it right in front of everybody. These guys, you got to have either, I want to say the guy must have thick skin, but I think it's just they have no shame. They're just, the Joe Scarboroughs, the Joy Reids, Mika, all of these people, the Coopers, the Lemons, they just have no shame, and when you're getting a certain amount of money, Rachel Maddow, when you're getting a certain amount of money, I guess the shame just goes away because you know that you're going to get that paycheck. And once that's the most important thing, I guess you just have no problem lying. But Don Jr. was not putting up with it. Someone just tried to assassinate his father. Of course, the mainstream media has no respect for that at all whatsoever. And a reporter decides to approach him and say this. After I play this clip, I'm going to actually show you a quick little fact check on something that they had an exchange about. And then I'm going to show you Tucker Carlson actually responding to this whole thing. Tucker Carlson was sitting down with Kevin Roberts, the man who is spearheading Project 2025, and Tucker saw this exchange and comments on it. So let's get into it.
What is that change going to look like, Don? What practically, your father as president, I think you would even say, was a divisive figure. What's it going to look like in the second term?
I don't think he was a divisive figure at all. I think the media created divisiveness around him. They lied about Russia collusion. They said he was a traitor. They went after him in every which way as possible. If the media actually starts being an honest broker, talking about the things that he did, the prosperity he brought, the peace deals that he signed around the world, rather than the disaster that we're living right now, I think you'd do everyone in the country a big favor.
I know immigration's important to him. I covered the family separation crisis closely. Will we continue to see policies like separating 5,000 children deliberately from their parents?
You mean the Obama administration?
You know they didn't do that, sir.
Okay, sure.
Will there be a second family separation policy?
It's MSDNC, so I expect nothing less from you clowns. Even today, even 48 hours later, you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait with your lies and with your nonsense. So just get out of here.
What is that change going to look like, Don? What practically your father...
Oh, man, just get out of here. You know what? We got to start seeing that a lot more when it comes to these types, right? Just get out of here. Just get out of here. What are you talking about? Now, the fact check that I was talking about, they have the little exchange. The gentleman says that he covered the situation of families being separated very closely, but I guess it wasn't close enough because this is under the Obama administration, and this is Obama's, what was it called? DHS Secretary Jay Johnson talking about the situation and admitting freely that it is something that they did.
From 2014 show pictures of unaccompanied minors in effect, jail situations. As you look back on that, did you handle it so well?
Well, Chris, without a doubt, the images and the reality from 2014, just like 2018, are not pretty. And so we expanded family detention. We had then 34,000 beds for family detention, only 95 of 34,000 equipped to deal with families. So we expanded it. I freely admit it was controversial. We believed it was necessary at the time. I still believe it is necessary to maintain a certain capability for families. We can't have catch and release. And in my 3 years, we deported or repatriated or returned over 1 million people. But again, you can deal with this on the border. You can try different things. We did not want to go so far as separate families, but unless we deal with the underlying causes that are motivating people to come here in the first place, we're going to continue to bang our heads
against the wall. So just to, that little exchange there, he's like, oh, they didn't do that, sir. It's just so dishonest. You could, and this is the thing I don't understand about the mainstream media. You could admit a little bit. You don't have to just make it Trump is the only person who ever did this. You can say Obama did it, and you could even say, and I don't know this to be true, but you could say Trump did it more. You could say that, but I guess that doesn't demonize Trump enough for them. It just kind of puts him on the same level as, the great Obama, And no, you can't do that. You can't have them doing the same things because that all of a sudden makes Obama look a little evil. It makes Trump look a little good. It makes presidents seem like they just have to make hard decisions at times, and we can't have that. We can't have that. And just so you know, all those people that they deported all got back in for sure. All of them. Every single one. They deported 1 million. Biden imported 15 million. There you go. Done deal. They're all back. They're all back hanging out right now in a New York hotel room that would probably regularly cost $500 a night. Oh, it's funny because it's true. It's funny because it's true. Now, Tucker Carlson actually had something to say about this little exchange and just the mainstream media in general. So check out his response to this whole thing. Let's make sure I don't have it on triple speed here. Let's go.
And a lot of people hear unity and they think, well, unity implies some sort of compromise, conversation. You can't have a conversation with people who are unwilling to compromise. The left, which is a religious movement, is unwilling to compromise on any level at all. They won't even admit men can't become women. So how can you have unity with people like that? And of course you can't. But I think what they're really trying to say is, let's ignore some of the insanity, actually. Be in charge. You don't need to constantly remind people you're in charge. Just do it. I mean, a good father's not constantly telling you how hard he works to, pay for the food you're eating. He just does it. And you notice after a while, and you're calmed by that. And I think maybe that's the message. We don't need to respond to all this nonsense. You're too small to respond to. That's what I would do. No one wants to hear, why is MSNBC still on the air? Nobody watches it. Same with CNN. Nobody watches it. And if I look back on my life, I've worked at both CNN and MSNBC. So for me, it's, the hatred is absolutely real. But too much, though. Too much. Unhelpfully. Don't feel hatred. That itself is a sign of weakness, in my opinion, and a lack of self-discipline. But why are we even talking about them? Nobody watches. Nobody watches. I mean, my nephew get drunk and post something on X, and he's got more viewers than MSNBC primetime. I'm serious. So, why are we even giving them oxygen by engaging with them? Their audience is tiny. I hope that's part of what they're saying. I saw Don Jr., who is really my favorite person in Trump world, who really I think does understand, I shouldn't even be saying this, but it's true, understands the voters and how they feel on a real level, on a gut level. But I saw him do an interview with MSNBC today, and they're like, are you going to separate more families at the border? Really? You let in tens of millions of illegal aliens and wreck our country, and that's your concern? And he just looked at the guy, he's like, yeah, go away. Enough. He didn't yell at him, just go away. I mean, it's not even worth it, actually. And I think that posture is kind of what's needed right now. I'm not going to engage with you. I've tried for 7 years now, 8 years, to have a conversation in good faith. I used to try to book these people on my show. Not one person would come on my show to debate the other side. And then, of course, I got fired anyway. But it's better just to be calm and in command. And I think that restores tranquility to the country faster than any rhetorical argument you could make.
So that's high profile national.
I like that. I like that answer. That posturing is very, very much needed, especially because Don Jr. could have went back and forth with them, could have got very heated. I'm sure you've been in situations where you could go back and forth with someone. You could get very heated, but at a certain point, and I don't mean this every conversation where someone doesn't agree with you. That's not what I mean, because you don't want to just be shooing away everybody that doesn't agree with you. That's not going to help sharpen your arguments, right? But I mean, if somebody is just unwilling to compromise, again, I go back to that situation, because all this guy had to say is, yeah, Obama did that a little bit, but your dad did too. It changes the whole conversation. And then Don Jr. might have said, when did my dad do that? When? And if this gentleman really studied the situation like he claims, he could have been like, well, this instance and this instance and that instance. And they could have had a productive back and forth, and he could have got some real information out of him. But this gentleman wasn't looking for that. He wasn't looking for compromise. He wasn't looking for conversation. He was looking for some kind of soundbite. And honestly, more than likely, especially with the way these people operate, these mainstream people, he was probably looking for one of these two to be very heated with what just happened with his dad and hoping to get a rise out of him so he could get a proper soundbite. Because as terrible as it sounds, this guy right here works for MSNBC. He wants to become the next Joy Reid. He wants to be the next Joe Scarborough. That's the big time to him. He wants to get into that position, right? I know that sounds gross. Like, what do you mean? But that's what this guy's going for. He doesn't want to be here. You know, this is for him. This is like, I'm running around all these Republicans and I got to do this. And I got to get sound bites. And I got to be around these people. No, he wants to be like Joy Reid, Joe Scarborough, just in the ivory tower, just saying things that aren't true, getting paid exorbitant amounts of money every single day in the tens of thousands of dollars every single day. That's what they're getting paid. Believe it or not, even if no one's watching. It's wild. But yeah, man, I like Tucker Carlson's response to that whole thing. And I like that he was actually watching. Interesting stuff is going on, man. I was having a conversation with my friend this morning, and we were talking about how there's a real shift coming, you know? And again, I've had this conversation before on this channel where I was talking about the Great Awakening and the Great Reset. You know, if you don't know the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, they have something in mind called the Great Reset. It leads to a one world government. And then there's something on the other side of that, because that's evil. And there's always good on the other side of evil. There's always, you know, it's never just evil. And the good side of that, the brighter side, is the Great Awakening, where people start to awaken. And you always notice that people don't awaken unless they get confronted with something like the Great Reset. You know what I mean? Like, you need something horrible to pop up so you understand how important it is for you to wake up, or maybe something just triggers inside of you. Maybe your soul wakes up. Maybe you start communicating with your spirit, your conscious, whatever it is, whatever happens for you. Like for me, I turned to Christ because I was confronted with great evil, you know, occult stuff, just very dark stuff. And I was like, oh, well, if this exists, well, then there has to be some kind of good. And then that sent me on my journey, and that's where I ended up. I ended up getting saved. You're seeing a lot of that now. You're seeing that with the Russell Brands, and, you know, even Jimmy Dore was on Joe Rogan's podcast having this spiritual talk, you know, about how he tracks his dreams, and he stopped smoking marijuana because he figured it was from God. You're hearing all of these people. You're seeing all these people start turning to good. It doesn't have to be religion if you're not into that. I understand. Hopefully you are one day. But there's a lot of people who are realizing there is some evil at play, and they start searching for the good side of things. You know, you don't get a great awakening without a great reset rearing its ugly head, its ugly, bald, Klaus Schwab-y head. You don't get it, right? So I don't know. And inversely, even this, you don't get Tucker Carlson unless you have mainstream media. Tucker Carlson learned how to be Tucker Carlson in the mainstream, right? And then he left, and then he became the Tucker Carlson that we all know, right? When Tucker Carlson was working for CNN, nobody was saying, man, I hope that guy runs for president. Nope. That wasn't a thing, because he became fully formed once he got out of there, went deep into the belly of the beast, even lived in Washington, and then came out and said, oh, okay, I can never work for anyone again, and I have to be on the side of good, you know? Anyways, guys, that's my TED Talk for today. I want you to like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. It helps the channel tremendously. You have no idea. And other than that, I'm out.